Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Clegg.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, friends, for that very warm welcome. I'm going to talk today about the future. But let me start by asking you to think back to the past. 1 year ago, it was a different world. You remember, the Labour government was sort of popular. Gordon Brown had dealt with the crisis competently. Everyone wanted to pay court to the great Gordon. Even Margaret Thatcher wanted to have tea with him. The Sun newspaper, I remember very well, said, Gordon Brown is in a position of strength. And at the other end of Whitehall, David Miliband was telling reporters that he wasn't interested in being Prime Minister. Oh, right, David. Things were so different last year that when Vince Cable predicted a housing collapse, people just thought he was Victor Meldrew. No one outside this party realized that Vince was a twinkle-toed economic prophet. What a difference a year makes. But what's far more important is that things have changed for every family in Britain too. The political changes of the last year are nothing compared with the economic hardships families face now. Like Angie, a middle-aged mum who came to see me in my constituency recently, who said she was finding it difficult to sleep because she told me about that sinking feeling she gets at the supermarket checkout and the petrol pump, counting down the days until her cheap mortgage deal ends, switching down just half an hour of heating in the morning because it's all she can afford. You know how it feels, don't you? There's this big, intangible thing called the global credit crunch. Banks and funds with names you've never heard of, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Lehman Brothers, Bear Stearns, and suddenly you're worrying, is my money safe in my bank, on my high street? These are difficult times. Our economy weakens by the day. We survive on oil and coal we cannot afford from nations we cannot trust. A firestorm is raging through our financial system, ignited by reckless bankers and fueled by complacent politicians. I had a look recently at Gordon Brown's final budget last year. Can you believe it? He actually boasted our growth will be the highest in the G7. Inflation has never gone above 3%, he bragged. Labour offers nothing. They're so desperate to protect their own jobs, they can't be bothered to protect other people's. They're the living dead. No heart, no mind, no soul, stumbling around with no idea what to do. They are a zombie government, a cross between Shaun of the Dead and I'm sorry I haven't a clue. And all these backbenchers and ex-ministers you've never heard of, rising up from the grave of obscurity to impale Gordon Brown. Thank goodness Gordon's got Jeff Hoon, Chief Whip, Chief Zombie Slayer on his side. Riding to the rescue to the Prime Minister, he declared, it's important that people who have something to say come out and say it. What a shambles. We can't predict the future. We can't know exactly what challenges our country will face. but we can be certain that Labour cannot help us. And we can be certain that the Conservatives won't even bother. You see, Cameron's only aim was to make the Conservatives inoffensive. The problem is, once you strip out the offensive parts of the Conservative Party, there just isn't much left. Cameron's hope is to become the Andrex puppy of British politics. A cuddly symbol perhaps, but fundamentally irrelevant to the product he's promoting. And what, you may ask, is this product? Well, we know it's blue, but so are the Smurfs and Toilet Duck. We have no idea what the Conservatives are really about. I asked my office to do some research over the summer into Conservative policy positions. Before you laugh, it turns out they've actually said quite a lot. 3,148 pages worth. In fact, at a best guess, that's, about 1.8 million words, 3 times as long as War and Peace, or 2,500 readings of the Gruffalo. I tell you, Miriam and I have read that at least that many times. I think they're hoping to produce so much of this stuff that no one will have the time to read it. Because out of all those 1.8 million words, guess how many translate into concrete commitments? None. Not one. I heard David Cameron ask the scientists at CERN in Geneva to test his election manifesto in their big particle accelerator thing. But they told him it didn't matter how fast they spin the machine, he'll never get a big bang from something with no substance. You see, when you promise, you have to choose. When it's all blue skies thinking, you can say everything, no matter how contradictory. You can say you want fairer taxes, but propose to spend billions cutting inheritance tax for the very richest in the land. You can call for the European Union to be stronger against the Russians, while still plotting to break it in two. You can say you'll protect civil liberties and then call for extra surveillance powers. You can cycle to work and have your driver follow behind. They are a say-everything, do-nothing party. David Cameron and his cronies have tried to take over every comforting, soft-focused word in the dictionary. They're for work-life balance, fairness, motherhood, apple pie, saving the planet, and custard. You have to admire, I suppose, the sheer gall of someone who worked for Margaret Thatcher, claiming he cares about poverty. But that arrogance, that born-to-rule